Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Discussion Traffic Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, October 2nd. Please take a vote. Mr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Axel.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Mr. Randall.
Here.
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Partington. Here. Ms. Lexington. Here. Mr. Gaskin.
Here.
Mr. McCollum. And Chamber. Okay. Everybody is back. Two items on the agenda. Do that. After your five items on the agenda, then we'll have this file. And second, we're in favor. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the from December 11th? Okay, we'll just read the motion for three. Motion to approve, second, I'm sorry?
I'm missing one.
Oh, okay.
So, that's me. Yeah. That's one.
Okay, any other questions or any comments? Okay, all in favor of the 3 minutes, so aye. Okay. All right, so this item of business is actually our old business, which is the. Oh, wait, thank you. I would like to introduce myself. Michael, let's start. Okay. I've been with me for at least 3 months. So hopefully I'll be ready to go. Thank you. My name is Michael Westphal. I'm going to just sit forward. I don't know if there's a lot of you. So I do think on the research factor back to the training for the work doing practice to help. So thank you. All right, so let's get started. I'm thinking for that, when you need to vote, Nikki, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. The sound is a little bit muffled, so I do apologize. Um, should I begin sharing a bit, or
No, you're good. You're doing well. Maybe you will.
I'm so sorry. It sounds maybe like a bit. The microphone is a little bit muffled. Should I begin sharing? I'm so sorry. It's very difficult to hear. Maybe the Zoom moderator can just put a message in, and if it's the time to start sharing, I can go ahead and do that.
So Nikki, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so Nikki, it's Laura. So we can hear you loud and clear. You can go ahead and share and continue with your presentation, please.
Excellent, excellent. And just so I can respect everybody's time, are we about 10 minutes or?
10 minutes, great, thank you.
Great. Okay, well, hi, everybody. My name is Nikki Kolios. I'm the Customer Success Manager working with Fort Lauderdale. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. And I thought what I would do, I'll just give a line of background for those that might not be familiar with the company, and a line on the work that we do already with the city. And I can get straight into the way that I hope to be able to support you all on this important initiative. So for anybody who's not familiar with it, Zen City is a company that was founded by urban planners and former civic professionals, and really sets for itself a goal of allowing local governments, cities, counties, law enforcement to be able to develop public trust across the breadth of the community, beyond some of the more limited ways that historically that's been done. We already work with Fort Lauderdale in a number of capacities, and so I work with Laura and with Erica in strategic innovation, as well as with the communications team and neighbor support and public affairs. There's a number of tools that the city has at its disposal through us. And when I heard about this project for City Hall rebuild, it really struck me that the community engagement platform that we have would really be a perfect fit. And so I hope to be able to share with you today just a little bit about that platform and the way that it would look and can be used, and the way it's been used elsewhere, so that you can all consider that, and hopefully I'll be able to support you all, like I said, on this important initiative. With that, I can just dive into giving you an overview of what I'm talking about. Is that all right, or are there any questions until this point? I'm sorry, again, maybe Laura, either you can use the microphone again or write in if need be.
Hi, Nikki. So you can hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little weak, but I think I can hear you.
All right, so Marilyn was asking if you are going to go through the tools that you're recommending.
I'm so sorry. I'm not able to hear you all.
Will you be demonstrating the tools for the team?
Sorry.
I'm good. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so.
Okay, can we please demonstrate the tools as we go through them?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so sorry. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so basically the city has at its disposal our Engage platform. Engage is a platform built for, like it sounds, community engagement. And so what I'm going to show you, just because I think it'll be the easiest way to internalize what it can do for you all, is I'm going to show you the city's existing landing page, and I can show you a few other examples. And then what I'll show you is some of the possibilities that we have on the back end that are going to be especially relevant for the different ways that we want to engage the community around this City Hall rebuild. So essentially, before I share my screen, essentially what the tool is a landing page that's a one-stop shop for residents to know about all of the major projects that are going on in the city. Typically, cities will use it to highlight some of their, the primary initiatives around infrastructure development, public safety, education, traffic, etc. And then for each subject, they're kind of, if you imagine a spoke, right? So, or a wheel, it will then from the hub, spokes coming out, and then each project will have, again, its own landing page. And then each of those pages has what we call engagements, right? So essentially, surveys or message boards or ways that you can engage the community around the subject at hand. And so what we'd be looking at is from the city's existing hub, having a project that would, be focused on the City Hall rebuild. And that project would have a number of engagements that would allow you to engage the community in any number of ways. And then you would be able to share the opportunity to take part in those engagements, both online or by, let's say, putting up QR codes in physical places, or by using, let's say, a kiosk at in-person events. So just so you have the kind of concept now that I'll share it, and you'll be able to connect the dots once you see it. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen. Okay. I imagine that I'm quite large in front of all of you, but you're all somewhat small. Can I get somebody raise their hand just to let me know that you can see my screen? Great, thanks. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, so this is the city's landing page. This is their Engage, the City of Fort Lauderdale's Engage Hub. Okay, city branding, right? Basically highlighting the major projects that the city has, and then right here, residents would be able to kind of come in and learn more about the different initiatives. And so these are the ones that already exist. And essentially the City Hall rebuild would be one of these tiles. And what you would do is, let's say, just again, go into any one of them. Okay, so let's say the Aquatic Center. And again, so imagine this, right, for the City Hall rebuild would be the main kind of one-stop shop place, for people to come, and all of the critical information would be here in one place without the need to start, navigating to different sites and pages and kind of getting lost. And so typically what we have is, an image, text, project timeline, and then opportunities to put in videos, pictures, supporting documents, and those surveys or message boards, or the different ways that you actually want the community to share their input. Just for illustrative purposes, I'll just kind of go over quickly, just give you a sense of how modular this is, right? The fact that it's supposed to be very easy to set up and collect from the community. I'm showing you now Nantucket. Okay, so you see again, it's the different major projects. Again, we would have one specifically for the City Hall rebuild. And then as we go into, so now I'm showing you our demo site just so I can show you the more interactive part of this. Essentially what we would have is, let's say we went here, I'm going to use affordable housing as a project, but again, imagine this for the City Hall rebuild. Okay, so you would have the basic information, right? The collateral, right? Timelines, supporting documents, project updates, videos and images. And then if I actually go into one of these engagements, so we would come in here. So this is a survey just as an example. And then again, just really have the option to very quickly kind of build out ways for the community to kind of let us know what it is they're hoping to get out of the project. Okay, so that's the front end, and then I'll just show you just one thing in terms of your ability to share this. So essentially, what we can do. Well, maybe I'll pause here. I mentioned it before. Essentially, in terms of sharing it with the community, it's very easy to either put it onto the city's website and share it via social media, and put up QR codes in physical locations, typically, community centers, libraries, and the like, and then also set up kiosks at in-person events so that, people that show up are able to make their voices heard as well. I think I'll pause there. And if you'd like, I can speak to, particular use cases or that we've had with other clients that I work with.
Yes, Peter.
Can you hear me okay, Nikki?
Yes, I can.
My question is, with nearly all city activities, you have 10% of people that are very interested and 90% do not participate at all. So they would not necessarily be motivated to go to any of these landing pages.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you account for the silent majority in this description of city projects and what is being proposed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. At Zen City, we often talk about STPs, the same 10 people that come to commission meetings, to make their voices heard, and those are voices that should be heard and deserve to be heard, but not necessarily representative of the community. And so all of the work we do, both on Engage, and the other platforms that we support the city and all cities and counties with, is with the intention of making it as easy as possible for the maximum number of people to be engaged. Broadly speaking, the way that we address that is we work with the staff that are putting together these projects. I personally, will work with them to say, okay, what are the different ways that we can put this messaging out so that it reaches the maximum number of residents, and not just maximum number, but also a spectrum of residents, right? Not just, one part of the community. And so that's why we often do a combination of online, right? Website, social media, but also in person, and also with different kinds of in-person opportunities, right? People that are just coming through City Hall, people, or libraries, people that are coming to rec centers, events that might not necessarily have to do with this particular subject, but that we know is going to attract a lot of attention. So, just for example, I work with Lafayette Parish in Louisiana, and they did a couple of really massive strategic planning projects, and they were concerned about the ability to engage, especially residents from neighborhoods that were historically underserved. And so working with them to, just at the community events that the city was highly investing in, being able to have city staff there to go around and proactively engage residents on that. And so part of it is, part of the way that we manage it is the abilities of the platform itself, in other words, allowing it to be shared in person and virtually. And part of it is from a service orientation, my sitting with the team, or with any of you that will be involved, and being able to say, okay, let's plan it together. Let's take some of the use cases that we've had elsewhere in the country so that we can maximize the exposure to the community.
Roosevelt.
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, name is Walters, and I just have a couple of questions for you, but I'm going to make it one long question.
Okay.
And that is the type of engagement. You mentioned a couple, but I need to know more about the type of engagement you have. Who is the targeted audience that your company deal with, and your method of distribution of the information that we wish for people to receive, and do you have a dedicated team to do so? Sure.
So I just want to make sure I heard everything. So it was that I had mentioned multiple ways of engagement. What are they? I think it was the second one was the kinds of people we engage, and then targeted audience. So who are we targeting? And I think the last one was about how we'll support the city, to engage those audiences. Is that right?
Yeah, distribution.
Distribution. Sure. Okay. So in terms of the different ways that you can engage using the platform, broadly speaking, there are three, or maybe we'll call 3 or 4 opportunities, right? One is just the informative aspect of the project, right? The collateral that is going to be put up and made available to everyone, right? The information, right? What's listed, what pictures are shown, what videos are there, contact information, documents, etc. That's one. That's kind of the passive side, let's call it. The second are surveys. Okay, so all kinds of different questions. There's quite a rich pool of resources to choose from, right? From things you might see anywhere else, right? Like radio questions and checkboxes, but also the ability to, let's say, post up images, right? So I'll use an example, let's say for City Hall, right? Maybe the city's considering different designs. And so the ability to give different images as examples of different designs that are being considered, and then to ask residents, which one they like more. The ability to drop pins on a map for locations, or, to ask people where they want certain resources, and things like that. So that's in terms of surveying. The third resource are what we call idea boards. So respondents being able to put up their ideas, and other respondents being able to either add their own and or vote for, or upvote or downvote ideas that they see there. And finally, we have message boards, which are more or less what they sound, right? Kind of a virtual pin board, where people again can kind of put up a message, and then people can comment it and or put their own. So that's, very broadly speaking, the kinds of engagements that we can that we support on the platform. In terms of who we're targeting, and it that's, we don't do the distribution for the city. We do support the city in its distribution. So again, I would work with the staff to make sure that you're able to get in front of the maximum number of residents that you want, and that we kind of again, based on our experience, consider all of the avenues for getting in front of the broadest cross section of the community that we can, and reaching the audience that you want to reach. So that's distribution, right? The distribution is done by the city, and we support you in it. Did I answer your questions to your satisfaction, or is there something I could add for you?
You did well with answering the questions, but it leaves me with some concerns, because those people who failed to come to the city commission meeting are the same people who are not going to go to the library. It's the same people who are not going to go to a homeowners meeting association. But those are the people we need to reach, because they are the ones that are going to be raising hell once City Hall get built.
Yeah.
City Hall, police departments, and anything else we want to do. And so
Sure.
I want to try to make sure this time that at least we have made a great effort and put the information in places where everybody would have an opportunity to review.
Sure. Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
James, you have a question?
Yeah, great question.
James.
Nikki, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
So do you collect any personal information, like how long a person's been a resident, or what neighborhood they live in, or education level, or things like that?
We as a company don't collect any private information, and the only information that would be collected from this platform would be what the city asks for, and what and I guess more importantly what people choose to answer. That's, I guess, the short answer.
So I just want to, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to emphasize, this is just one of the engagement aspects.
Right.
One. What we're going to make sure is that we provide enough survey questions that are comprehensive, and we can run those questions by you as well, to make sure that we capture the essence of the validity, if you will, of the people that are going to be providing these responses, and it gives you some idea of background of their thoughts and their feedback. So we certainly can bring that to you all, and beforehand as we plan out the surveys. But yeah, this is just one aspect, and about making sure that we give an opportunity to everyone. We're going to do these meetings or these visioning sessions, one per district. So we want to make sure that we can get the HOA presidents involved and make sure that they know we're going to be in their district and that their participation is critical for shared success. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so hi Nikki, what I'm hearing is that we've got experts in putting together the content and experts in putting together the documents of the content, the handouts, the webpage, the engagement pieces. But we still have to worry about, or we still have to work on now, how we distribute it with the city, okay? And we also have to work on what questions are we asking? What material are we providing for them? So I think this is excellent, and I know your work I'm a planner myself, so I know you work. They're one of the best in the field. And I'm very grateful to the city for in such a short period of time bringing on these resources, because we have an incredibly ambitious program here in terms of time. And this is exactly the kind of professional help we're going to need. But these are not, with all due respect, they don't, it's not their job to put in the content. It's not their job to drive the questions. It's our job to do that. And they're going to help us once we get all this information together. So this is fabulous.
Yes.
And unless, Mark.
Okay, well, thank you. I have some comments. I like this platform. I agree that it's a lot of potential, but I think what makes it different between Facebook and Twitter is to put that pin on the map. And it's critical to have project by location. So I would envision a map of Fort Lauderdale, and maybe, I'm not interested what is going on in a District 1, but I may pay attention when they're building a water treatment plant next to my house, right? So I would envision this board as a background to have it actually tied to the GIS. Because when I'm the resident, I'm not going to be making comments on an aquatic center or a pickleball court that I don't even play pickleball. But I'm more interested in what's going on next to me, right? And I think that's the difference between Twitter and Facebook, because all this information we can put on the Twitter or on the Facebook, and people can make a comments. But the difference between this platform and everything else is you actually tie to the GIS, so you can actually have that thing. And I think you mentioned that, Nick, that has an ability. So I think that's very important to have that ability, because right now I saw a lot of pictures and I have to go to that individual project that I'm interested, but I may be interested only because it's next to my house.
Right.
So I think that's very important to have. Regardless the kiosk, I think it's not necessary. I think the QR codes are great. Everybody has a cell phone right now. Maybe we can mail them to the residents with their new tax estimates, I don't know, assessments, make some flyer or QR codes. I'm into, I think everybody has a cell phone right now. If they don't, maybe we can have a hard copy service.
Utility bills.
Utility bill, exactly, perfect. We all get a utility bill every month. So that's the avenues I think we can definitely use. The kiosk, you bring them to the event, somebody it's gonna break, you need to make sure electricity is there, the dog is gonna pee on it, I don't know. It's for me, a lot of travel, people wanna hear the music, they wanna eat, and nobody's gonna be doing the computer, but they're gonna be on a cell phone. So maybe those QR codes at the event, yes, I'm all about the QR codes, not necessarily the kiosk. I think it's additional cost, and I don't think they're gonna be used.
The only comment I would have on that is, I definitely agree with you on the geometry stuff, but we do have one very important public event, and that's Neighbor Support Night. It's in February. Everybody goes. I mean, filled with people from all over the city. And that I don't know about a kiosk, but certainly a booth with just, with all of the information and some computer stuff and the QR codes and the surveys, and people who don't get the QR code thing, we could just have the surveys there. We could have a couple of people sitting and asking people to fill out the surveys. I mean, it's the old fashioned way. A lot of people, they see those QR codes and they get very nervous, I don't know how to do this. Okay.
Well, even menu right now is in the QR code.
Yeah, I know.
They all order a burger.
Okay, so Okay, very good. This is excellent. I think now, if anybody has any questions about the service they're gonna provide, now's the time to ask it. They're providing a smorgasbord of tools for us to use. And I think the next presentation will be talking to the consultant who's gonna help us put together what information we're going to put on these platforms and tools. Am I correct?
Yeah, I wanted to, if I may, address
Sure.
the board. So thank you so much, Nikki, for that overview. And hi, good afternoon, everyone. So just wanted to present to you the plan of how we're going to get to an understanding of what the future of City Hall will look like. So I appreciate, first of all, that the ITF stepped up and said, yes, we can partner with the city to get this much critical feedback campaign, if you will, so that we can at least get some firm understanding on what are going to be some of the initial requirements to start conceptualizing, and from conceptualizing, then determining the design. This is just one of those components. In addition to this, we're going to have, again, 5 workshops. The workshops are going to be facilitated by a professional facilitator. This person, she's going to come and talk about what she's going to do, her background, and how she can add value to this entire process. She has been hired for this, so she's already on board. There is a purchase order already in place and real money allocated to this. This is real, this is happening. But I do appreciate, you sharing some of the methods. We have to not only think about social media, we have to think about having landing pages for content. This is certainly a big component of that, having a page that will hold all these documents for reference. But in addition to that, we want to reach as many people as possible. We're even thinking how we can expand this outreach, if you will, by doing a telephone town hall as well.
Yes, we talked about that, yes.
And with the telephone town hall, each one costs anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. That's what it costs when we're out there doing a telephone town hall, but we can grab a lot of information and make sure that we reach every single person that has a registered phone within the city of Fort Lauderdale. So that's probably going to be, something that we deliver later on, but wanted to at least give you an idea of how in-depth we're going to get to be able to reach everyone. And that way, when you all receive all this information and when we all put this together, we certainly have a comprehensive level of feedback from all communities for the City Commission to consider. With that said, I'd like to introduce our partner for this endeavor. And certainly she's going to, again, give you an introduction about what she brings to the table, her experience, how she's been involved with the Fort Lauderdale community. And so I have the great pleasure of introducing our next speaker, if you will. And she's going to give you more background on what her role is and how she's going to support your campaign, your initiative.
Thank you so much, sir. My name is Cheryl Dickey, and the company is Dickey Consulting Services, and we're doing this in partnership with the American Institute of Architects, and the current president for the Fort Lauderdale chapter is Anson Stewart. So when we were talking about content, we will be doing that together to make sure that then we address what you have been talking about earlier. But first, I want to give, some of you all know who I am, but we have been doing actually facilitation of workshops and charrettes for the last 28 years with various design firms, planners, architects, and have worked in the South Florida area for quite some time. Our headquarters are here in Fort Lauderdale on Sistrunk Boulevard. We intentionally built the building there in the CRA and have been, again, doing this for quite some time. So we're excited. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to be in partnership with you all as a task force, with all of your expertise around the table, for which we know you have, and want to be a part of how we then gather the type of information we want to ask in these 5 workshops. So we've outlined this such that we included, as I said, the American Institute of Architects, and then we will also, I heard at the last meeting, wanting to make sure we had students involved. So the student chapter of Florida Atlantic University will be involved as well. I'll let Anson talk a little bit about that, and then we'll come back to how we're designing these 5 workshops and what we're going to be doing in them.
Thank you, Carol. As Carol said, my name is Anthony Stewart. I'm the current president of AIA Fort Lauderdale. When Cheryl reached out to us, we jumped at the opportunity for being involved in this process and basically having our close to 300 members to help to participate, to help make this process a reality. And we just want to be a voice at the table to assist, facilitate the process. We're not necessarily looking for a final product, but just lending our expertise and how we can guide this process along. And as she indicated, we're also including our students. I'm also an adjunct professor at FAU, so we have AIAS, American Institute of Architects student chapter, involved with the process as well. And we will have them basically providing their input and helping us to facilitate the procedure as we go through all the different charrettes.
Yes. So the 5 workshops are exactly what you all have been talking about. At the first one, what we propose doing, of course, is going over the guiding principles. I know you all have set forth some. So we were looking at showing those on a board that you have developed and then getting the input from the attendees. And I'm going to talk about the 5 workshops first, and then we'll talk about how we're going to get the attendees there. And so the first is the guiding principles. And the other thing that we thought, and we're going to have to get your opinion on this, I was hearing that there were at least 5 or 6 different ideas that came from the commission about where the building would actually be and whether it's going to be where it currently is or someplace else. So one of the things that we wanted to do was show this fine information. We're going to take from the Historical Society, you know, the previous buildings of City Hall, have it on a big board. They've already, you know, going to give us this information. So people see how the evolution of the City Hall has been and how the Architecture Institute has been involved in facilitating, as well as the citizens yourself in actually creating that. So we just thought that would be a good thing. And then we'd have the guiding principles. Now, what we're thinking of doing at that first workshop, when we do the kickoff and the introduction, showing the previous city halls, and now here you are as the public able to now give your input for the new city hall, reimagining it, is that we would go over those principles, but also allow them to hear what those 6 ideas were, and then prioritize what they thought it should be. Not, and we will make it clear, this is not a design workshop for completion. This is all concept. Just wanted to hear your opinion. That's what we're talking about here. But in fact, then giving it on to you all as the task force to deal with. Now, if you think that's a bad idea, let me know now.
Oh, I'm sorry, James.
I didn't think we were necessarily tasked with selecting location.
Well, these are things that we need to talk about. I mean, I think this
Exactly.
is a very
It's
good.
just
thing.
an idea,
Okay.
just an idea, only because I was told, and that's why I wanted to put it out there. Because if you all say, no, we don't have to worry about that, we're just gonna do the introduction, get them familiarized with the guiding principles, and that's how we'll handle the first workshop. But I was thinking, oh, if you were interested in saying to the public, listen, we, you know, because their representatives have been talking about it, meaning the commissioners, it would give them some thought process for providing.
Well, but James, you have a point there. That's not the purpose here, but you gotta give people something to see. And you never walk into a meeting without something, and the historical stuff is a perfect
love that.
beginning. I love that.
Okay,
But then I would think that the next piece of it is, where are we right now?
okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Where's the city facilities
Yes,
now? Where are the
yes.
cops? They're over here. Here's the buildings. What buildings do we own? What is the inventory? What are we
Okay.
looking at?
Okay.
So, you know, that's the next sort of a piece of information, so people, because you'd be surprised how many people have no idea about all of these
Where we
things.
own
We gotta
property.
get everybody on the same page.
Mhm,
And then, do you want to introduce at this stage where people think it should be, or are we too early at this stage? If you put out a question to a general group, all right? I'm sitting at a community meeting, and yeah, well, where do you think it should be? Where do you think the city hall should be? I mean, I'm telling you, they're all over the place, and which is good, because everybody's getting the juices flowing. But I don't know if in a big, I mean, what is your opinion on that?
Well, it was just a thought for getting, we're gonna have breakout tables at all these sessions. And then having each one of them staffed by someone, we'll have the old flip chart. And then going into prioritization. And I know it's controversial. We do not have to do this, but I wanted to throw it out there.
Well, let's talk. James, you
Yes.
started, let's talk.
Thanks, I started. I thought, and the city manager, you correct me, but I think we pretty much decided it will be downtown. We don't know exactly a piece of land downtown. But I think that was sort of a core decision,
I think we
that
made
what
that
I recall,
So,
the city commission has discussed and pretty much given us that direction.
so within downtown, you're right, there was a majority that said that the provisional temporary offices, the majority to stay in downtown. However, for the new city hall, there, I've received at least feedback for 3 possible locations. The current site, the federal courthouse, the existing one,
Mhm.
or the TAM building,
The which,
the Transportation and Mobility building location.
Third.
oh,
That
tear it
tiny
down
little-
and rebuild.
That teeny.
And that's why, you know, staff, you know, would like to get that confirmation or affirmation of should it stay where it was, where it is? Does that make the best sense? We own that land, right? And these are the kind of discussions that can be broadened with everyone, because she'll have information, we'll have information, and now, you know, what your thought is, right? It's just probably is stay where it is. You'll
No,
probably be-
no, it's, I just downtown, but what piece of land it sits on,
Right,
I just think it needs to be downtown. I'm
Right.
more concerned about size, functionality.
right. Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
And,
Let's
and
start with,
those are the other workshops, but go ahead, yes.
yeah, Peter.
So is it a done deal that it needs to be or will be downtown? And if the answer to that is yes, then the starting point would be how much and what needs to be downtown. I mean, it could be, in my mind, it's just the commission, their immediate staff, and representatives of the city manager's office. That would be, to my mind, only the minimum that you could have downtown. So is the question of exactly what is going to be, first question is it been settled that something will be downtown?
Yes,
If so,
yes.
is it then open to exactly what and how much will be downtown?
So that's the conversation of what functionalities should City Hall have? Should it have presence for customer service? Should it have presence for meeting with your elected officials? Should it have presence to resolve other issues or even do your permit? There's a specific workshop on just that. Correct.
That was going to be the next one. That is space allocation. That was going to be the next one.
Let me ask you a question about that. Are we gonna go, and this is a general question, are we gonna take what's developed in the first workshop, which is a citywide workshop, okay? And then are we going to take that information district by district by district, or are we gonna do new, different things in district by district? Because if I go to the big one in the middle, the first one, okay, we get a certain amount of information. Okay, and then if I miss the second one, I'm gonna miss whatever they talked about in the second one. And if I only get to the third one, what? Is
Well, we
something-
were only gonna have 5,
No,
and it was gonna, you know, obviously, we're gonna use all mediums to get people to the meeting. And I'm gonna address that after we talk about what the 5 were.
that's good, but what I'm concerned about is if anybody misses the first
We're gonna
meeting,
do a recap.
all right, we'll have to,
Yeah,
okay,
start
so
of each
every
workshop
time
with
we
a
get to.
recap.
we're gonna
Recap,
do
a recap of every workshop.
Okay. Okay, yes, Lorna.
So is each workshop gonna have specific task that we're trying to accomplish,
Specific
right?
topics.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
But if coming to the location or the functionality, I think without the functionality and expectation, we cannot be probation. I think first we need to identify what we want, what's the needs, and then we look, we have a space downtown, or we're gonna have to move a little bit, farther, because
So we'll switch.
we need to have specific departments, we need to have a permitting in the city hall or the customer service. Or if we don't, and if it's a kiosk, maybe we have enough space and infrastructure downtown. But I also be very careful I think if we're not gonna pick downtown, we're gonna have to answer a lot of questions to the residents, why it's not in a place when it always was, because I've been here for last 50 years, and that was my city hall.
Right.
And now I need to drive, Broward Boulevard to the west side of the 95 or something. So I think, downtown is a great location, but I think we need to start with the identifying what we actually want from the city hall. Because without that, clearly, understanding what needs to be in the building, it's gonna be hard to pick the right location.
Okay.
And
So,
She pretty much covered my concerns. I have others that I deal with it as she goes through the presentations.
so, going on with what Martha said, so we certainly have, the first thing is the history, the second thing is where we are now, but I think she brings up a great point.
Yes,
Where do we need to go? What do we need? That would be like.
so we should be able to space allocation
Well, we
in that
got,
first workshop.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean,
what do we need? What
we
do we
already
need?
know.
I think
we have,
the location
for
would be
instance,
the
we have
last.
a-
I think location would be last workshop, right? Like we can say
In the end.
that's what the residents want. That was, that was identified as a need, and then, okay, this is our options. We have 3 on the table.
Right, we don't start out with a location, although apparently we do
Because-
start out with a location.
But then we try to fit the
So-
stuff
So
of the
let's be
location,
clear on
right?
this.
All topics are intertwined.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
That you cannot see this sequentially.
Right.
Because all topics are intertwined. I think what would be best is, for everyone to chime in and give their feedback and resolve, priorities. And then once you have all the workshops completed and achieved, that can help determine more factors. But I think they're all intertwined because if you're not gonna have all the functionalities, then why you need so much space? Then maybe a distributed system would be best, right? Where you have
Yeah.
satellite offices and a small office in the middle.
True, true.
But if you want a one-stop shop, one place to go resolve all, anything that it is that you want, which is very typical, like the county, right? Then, maybe that is the place, so then that can determine, what additional, features it will have. So all that, I mean, you have the best of the best right here with, the organization that's gonna give that level of insight and background. And they're gonna help, bring some ideas and thoughts into your brainstorming so that you can formulate a comprehensive plan.
And just to add on to that, what I was gonna say is, we gotta remember, we're kind of high level with this. Let's not think of this as problem solving, as of yet, even though at the end we want to have some type of resolution. Let's more so think of this as programmatic, right? Programming, problem seeking,
definitely.
right? We're gonna stay in the problem seeking phase of this.
Right.
And the problem solving will come when we actually get into this.
Ralph's next.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that there has to be a certain amount of logistics involved in this process. I think it's important also that the mayor, commission, city manager give us certain constraints that they may say, you know what? Let's take an example, the size of the city hall. We want to include public works, certain other departments, divisions within the city hall for one current convenience, and then thinking in the future that would also serve as a convenient and more efficient operation in there. So that's just one thought, but that's, we need some guidelines.
Yes, what brought us to this, because this was the newsletter when the current building was built, and in it are all of the things that the city wanted. We're gonna pass this out, and you can pass it out.
Okay.
And so at the time, they wanted, and they said specifically what was gonna be on the first floor, lobby and reception, the second floor, city manager's office.
Cool.
Okay,
I
so.
love this.
There you go.
Not on the last call. Thank you.
So that's the kind of thing that we were gonna do, just to excite people to say, oh, well, what do you think? What should be where? So, yeah, indeed,
Great.
Ms. Redmond, that's what we were looking at.
Oh, yes, Peter.
So I want to urge the task force and everybody involved to not anchor their thoughts on the past. just because of what existed in the 20th century, now we're designing 21st century. Who would have thought, for example, 4 years ago, that half of the office space in downtown San Francisco would now be empty because of expediency, people found a way to work apparently just as efficiently remotely. And everything is changing so fast that everything has to be on the table, particularly as far as current and possible future technologies. I mean, the rate at which artificial intelligence is improving, you may not even need the number of staff that you have anywhere like it, because a lot of the routine stuff can probably be done almost now by artificial intelligence. So this is a big subject, but do not anchor yourselves in, well, we had function of public works and it's over there, and I sort of remember how it used to work.
Is one of the workshops, one of the full workshops, is that gonna be specifically?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what you're thinking
Yes,
of?
I know, because I'm getting the question. Workshop will consist of exactly what we're talking about now. Space allocation, spacing allocation, we're gonna give examples, do some best practices across the country and world, what other city halls are looking at today. You know what I'm saying? So that we were gonna give those as examples and then have people, you know, choose, prioritize, and then come back and report back. The old dot system, that way it would just make it easier for people, not to be talked down if they were giving their own opinion. And then we were gonna have the amenities workshop. What kind of amenities? Just like you were talking about before. Do we want someplace where in fact, the public can engage with the public officials, or where the staff can go in some out of their offices and do some, you know, workshops or tasks together with 3 or 4 different departments on, you know, these are the kind of things that are going on today. Then there was going to be a financing and procurement workshop. How's it going to be financed? How's it going to be procured? And then, of course, we were going to do a recap of it all.
Right.
So.
Anything we're missing? Roosevelt.
Yes.
Okay.
And I tried very hard to be silent because my grandmother said you only learn when you listen. But I'm becoming very concerned as we talk about this, and I know you mentioned the fact that this is talking about it. This is not the final plan that we'll discuss it. But when I think about little Miss Mary, who lived in the middle of Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderdale Manors, with very little bus service, no car, no computer. That's been pretty much used to going downtown, and yet most of what they need done with one stop versus going satellite with all these different offices, where now she got to go all the way out to the beach to pay the water bill, and out in Davie and 31st to do something else with the city. I like the idea of keeping most of this stuff, the crucial stuff, in one location, because I know it's good that we have a path, and it's okay to go back and visit, but no, I don't want to go back there to live. I want to be able to take care of those folks who can't take care of themselves. See, that's where I focus all the time. I'm not about me. I'm about all of the little Roosevelts that are yet to come, that cannot do now for themselves, may not care to do for themselves later, but have to be done for anyway. See, this is my concern. And we went through this when we were out doing the community work before.
Right.
And we put all this on the table so that people knew that we're out here with you, trying to find out what it is that you need in order to make your life better. And that it's gonna come at a cost. And that's usually when people have a tendency to pull back, when you start talking cost.
Yeah.
So, and Cheryl, Miss Icky, however you want me to address you.
All of that is fine with me.
We've been out here a long time.
Yes.
And you are very familiar with the northwest section of the city of Fort
Which is where my
Lauderdale.
headquarters
It
are.
doesn't work, it doesn't work the
Yes.
way the beach
Yes.
area work. It doesn't work the way the southeast work. It's a unique place because of the ignorance of its existence for so long. And this is where I'm telling you, they must be treated good, they must be treated correctly. I get off this committee and I will fight tooth and nail, not because of what you doing is not correct. It's not just. I believe in fighting for good, right, and just. And it must have all three of those components in order for me to agree with.
So what I heard was, we're using some old fashioned ways for the surveys too.
You got it.
And so immediately I've written down churches, the Arlington, the libraries and the parks.
How
That's
about
what I wrote down.
the new YMCA?
Yeah, that's where one of the workshops will be,
Gotta be.
at the new YMCA.
Everybody loves
And
the
so
new
we were looking at the Main, the Holiday Park, and the new YMCA and the Beach Community Center, because we gotta get in all the areas.
Yeah.
And then in reaching out to the folks, we're using all your social media platforms. Next door, all the city's gonna help in getting the word out. And then, of course, we're gonna say to all the commissioners, hey, it needs to be announced in all of your meetings that you have prior to your commission meetings and in their newsletters. They all have them. I get all of them,
Yeah.
but I'm in one second. So that's, we're gonna get the word out.
You have a list of all the community newsletters. I know Imperial Park has one.
Yes, they
Rio
do.
Vista has
That's
one.
right. So we'll have to get all that. Well, I mean, we're working with the city, obviously, you know that. So we'll get all of that and we'll ask to get placed in all of the newsletters.
Great, that's
Yes.
just great. Okay,
A question about the process, because I really appreciate what you guys are doing from the standpoint of sheer volume of work. But right now, it sounds a lot like design by committee or input by committee. That's unbounded. Are there examples of boundaries, centralized, decentralized, very expensive, pitch a tent? I have a hard time wrapping my head around how 170-some thousand people, if they all show up,
Mhm.
can get you anything that they can use, that you can.
Mhm. Well, I mean, typically, you know that all of them aren't gonna show up, so that's why we're having it in different areas, and that's why we're using the mediums that we're using, the website, the survey, technology, and the in-person meetings. Is that what you're referring to? or-
No, I'm talking about when you're actually in one of these sessions. So here's what we're talking about today, and here's the boundaries, here's the fence around the yard.
Mhm.
Stay in this zone. Hit some of the topics that you talked about that way. It can be centralized, for example, it can be centralized or it can be decentralized.
Yeah,
Here's the pros and cons of each of those.
Yes, yes. So you're asking, if we're gonna do the pros and cons, yes.
yeah, each
Yes.
workshop will have
Yeah.
guidelines that we're gonna follow.
Okay.
To kind of keep it all.
That's actually.
within our-
I don't have a lot of experience.
You can get away with it.
Yes, it can.
But I
But
have a lot of
that's all
products
part
in
of it.
my life,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that's a surefire way of never getting a product.
Mhm. That's exactly right, which is why they have to be given the information, and then they're using that information to make some
For
priority
me,
decisions.
and you're watching in this subset of the population.
Indeed.
Because for me, I just say, ask Greg. I can do whatever he wants, as long as I'm not customers.
Yes, yes. Mhm, mhm.
Mike,
In the spirit of historical context, I always feel that, well, I think everybody hopefully can agree that hindsight's always seems to be 20/20. The occupancy date was August of 1969. Relatively long time ago, several decades.
I understand.
I said relatively.
$16 was a great gift for me.
I heard it was a phenomenal year. Unfortunately, I wasn't around then. What I'm getting at here is is there anybody that we can source historically or anything that we can source historically to find out what mistakes were made back then, right? What mistakes were made, maybe how could things be done differently? Kind of if there's a way to learn from the past. I know obviously things are a lot different these days, but I think there's always something that can be learned from the past. So I don't know if we have the ability to source that information, but if we can, I think we may be able to plug something out of there that could be helpful, right?
Yes,
But
yeah.
Why don't we get a bunch of the old mayors? You know, Norgo, a couple of the other guys, and
yeah,
put them in one of these round tables and say, well, what's your experience?
that's a great idea. I love
What
it.
you
Yeah,
got?
it's nice.
Something like that.
I grab all the people that
Sign
sign
for
the
the
federal court.
Yeah.
Ask them.
Anybody, staff, it doesn't matter. You know?
What they did already.
You're suggesting a mayor round table?
Just invite them for sure.
Mike-
Maybe we get them to talk a little bit.
Mike is definitely onto something. Follow that same path. A town that just built one 4 or 5 years ago. No, he's saying hypothetically.
Oh.
There was a town that put up a city hall 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's some 50% occupied. Yeah,
That's true.
what would you have done differently?
That's true. Yeah. So you're talking about Miramar or any of them?
Could be Kansas City.
And of course, Oakland Park is now doing their thing with the
They're out.
developer.
The town of Davie is building a city hall too, so they're going for this.
Yes, they are.
Well, since I have a voice, I will continue.
That's certainly, go right ahead.
I think, Peter, it's, you definitely, I agree with you. We have to think about 20 or 50 years ahead and how the life, it's hard to imagine how it's gonna look, but maybe we do need a parking lot on the roof. I don't know, maybe we will fly the cars here. That's something, but that also brings me to the reflection on the Roosevelt. How those services are being done right now when we don't have a location for the city hall? Is any challenges from the customers? Like, are we, as a residents, we do see the need to really go and pay our water bill in a city hall?
Yeah, but
Like,
that,
You know, how is
that's
it done
good.
for the
That's
recent
good
months?
for right now, because you can tell me when I say to you, look, I don't have no way to pay my water bill now because City Hall is closed. And you can say, I know, but look, I promise you, within the next 3 or 4 years, we're gonna have a brand new City Hall and you have.
So don't pay your water bill, wait until 5 years from now, you're gonna have a cashier over there. on
But
the
no,
first
I
floor.
tolerate it until.
It's just reflection. I think we are learning. It is definitely something what we maintain those services right now. And I do not hear a lot of, complaints from the residents that I must go to the city hall to get this done. So it looks like the departments pick up that and it's being dispersed, but we're maintaining those services, so.
Yeah, so right now, those services are being done at the Development Services Department, which is on 19th Avenue near Sistrunk. And I'll tell you that while it's convenient because you can go there to do your building permits, pay also your water bill, it's a bit of a challenge for staff because we're cramped in a space in order to be available for the public. So that is not the ideal
So
long term.
you still see a lot of traffic coming to
Yes,
the
there
development
is.
services.
A lot.
Spaces. Okay, well, that's a good
A
point.
lot.
Okay.
That's the answer to the question. There are still people who want to go and are going to a
Okay.
central location.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be either or, and I think let's talk out of the box, and you could have a place where people come to try and get one-stop shop services. And maybe what you just have is you have a group of people here who are just, that's their job, to sort of direct all these people to get that service. And maybe you use technology to bring in whoever they needed. I don't know. We're too deep now. Let's stay up here. I'm too deep. Let's stay up here. Yes, here.
But let me play devil's advocate. Yeah. More and more things, if you'd asked me 30 years ago, could you do everything pretty much that you need to on a computer? I would have said, I don't know what a computer is. So think in terms that maybe some of those functions that people have sort of learned, they can come into a place and kind of ask a question and gradually get directed down the right rabbit hole. Maybe the technology will be so good that it will be online, virtually, it will be almost like talking to a person. You will hardly know that you are not talking to a person. And they are going to be able possibly to answer 90% of the questions that people currently come in to City Hall. So again, I'm kind of urging you to think a bit more outside the box.
Okay. So what, in terms of going forward now,
Yes,
this was a very good meeting. I'm so glad we got everybody on board and the work is starting and we're starting to look at the content now. Content and methodologies. Our next meeting is November 1. Is it November 1 or November? What is that? November 6, November 6th. And our theory at our last meeting was that we get to November 6th and you would have a product, a proposed product. Then we could bounce around on the proposed product and then we would have the first workshop at the end of November. In your opinion, do you think we could make that? That's very, very aggressive. Do you think we can do that?
yes, so much so that quite frankly, in talking with the city, we thought we could do something in October, the end of October.
Oh, okay, let's not go to end of.
Okay,
We need time to see what you've produced,
Okay,
talk to you about it,
yes,
and then we got it in our heads.
yes,
November is the perfect time. It's right after Thanksgiving, right
Yes.
before the holidays. We get everybody together and then January, February, boom, boom, boom,
Right.
boom.
that's.
That's the theory. You're comfortable with that. Everybody, Mike.
Yeah, no, sorry, one more question. In the joint workshop, we discussed, Greg, we discussed data as far as like usage for City Hall and like what kind of data points we have right now with what we had with City Hall beforehand, right? So my question is where in this process that we can incorporate the data that we receive from the city as far as utility and usage and how that can be incorporated into this, into these workshops as well to help guide the public into arriving at a decision or a suggestion.
That was the expectation.
Okay.
We'd be getting data from the city.
Perfect.
And we
Yeah.
also be using best practices, and that's what's really going to be
Yeah.
presented, because we have to get the data from the city.
So yes, we do have data points from the last attempt to do a joint City Hall with the county. We do have that information and we will be putting that on the webpage so that everyone can read it and view it. So yeah, all that will be provided. I want to talk a little bit about dates because
Yes, I was gonna bring it up next, but go
you
ahead.
said October 30th, and I know that you have a constraint with the
That's right. The
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
So this is what we were proposing Saturdays, because we believe that there's all the, interference with people trying to get their kids from daycare, having HOA meetings at night and not conflicting with their meetings, and the city commission meetings themselves. Just a lot of stuff goes on at night after people have been at work or what have you. And we thought that the best results that both of us have been involved in these kind of workshops and sorts of minutes on Saturdays. And so we were really proposing Saturday. So if you say the end of November, that Saturday is actually December 2nd, I think. We've been looking at the calendar. So,
I'm agnostic about it.
okay,
My theory is that we want to get it right between, we don't want to do it right before Thanksgiving because everybody's starting Thanksgiving.
right.
We certainly don't want to go into that spot in the middle. If you could find a Saturday, if everybody's comfortable with
Okay.
Saturday, I don't.
Okay, all right. And can we focus on Saturdays as opposed to thinking we're gonna try to find? Now, if we have to do something in the evening, we were choosing the off Tuesday of the city commission meetings. Because then we don't want to run into the professors, quite frankly, they're teaching on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay, well,
Okay,
that seems reasonable to me.
okay.
How about everybody else?
Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association meets on the one of the off Tuesdays.
Mhm.
So
So we'll find
that
out
would
when that
really
is.
only leave you one Tuesday.
Okay, that's fine,
You know,
that's fine, and you'll tell me when that is.
It's the second
If,
Tuesday.
if we're doing evenings, but we're hoping that you're gonna be okay with these Saturdays.
Saturdays.
Okay.
Will you guys be available to do a walk-on at the next council meeting? Which is October 12th, I believe. The second Tuesday
The second Tuesday.
of this month,
Okay, so,
That would be
oh, I'm,
the 10th.
the tenth, no, unfortunately, because I didn't think we would have to,
Okay.
but I'm back the next, I'm going to be in Ohio.
No, that's just hoping. The next council meeting in November is the second Tuesday in November. That would be a.
Oh, you mean the civic,
The civic-
yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, so I can be there then, yes,
All right, well, we'll talk. when we get
okay,
to-
okay, okay, perfect.
Yes, James.
Question for city manager, you had all that, you mentioned this before when we talked about it, the data that was collected. In anticipation or thinking about joining the joint building with the county. Well, that didn't happen, and now we've had COVID. And we've had a flood, and what kind of data is there that exists today? That shows how the city is functioning today in terms of distributed, who comes to work, who stays at home and works. That kind of data, which is very, very current, and I think would be really important for us. Is
Yeah,
that kind of data available?
We can assemble that. And we will, so that when you all talk about functionality, you have a reference point on how we are at best operating, and we still are in the process of acquiring additional office space. We have a lot of people working from home. It is not ideal. And you cannot work from home for government. You cannot tell, I'll work from home for you. Because you saw right there how we try to connect. You couldn't hear me, I couldn't, nothing beats this. And so we want to make sure that the experience for our neighbors is the best. That if they want to come to City Hall, that, you know, they have those services available, that someone's there. So we will make sure that we have that. And along with, I think another reference point was in 2017, there was a study done about spacing and about how bringing everyone together and what square footage that would bring, and there was a study on that. And even then, you know, I would even put in information about the future of work, because while maybe, you know, it is important to have people working, being present, available at the office. Maybe there could be a model where some people have shared spaces, and that can minimize the amount of space requirement, AC usage, and make it even more green operation.
So like you say, like a job sharing,
Space sharing,
space sharing.
yeah, hoteling, where people can reserve rooms. I think more than anything, what we've experienced in this, since the flood, is that we need to have meeting spaces.
Yes, meetings.
Right.
Or doing, you know, meetings with the public. We don't have enough of these.
Agreed.
And if we had more of these, we could assemble people, we could discuss, and that can form better government. So there'd be more of, I would imagine there'll be more of a priority to have meeting rooms for people to brainstorm and come up with ideas than individual office spaces and all these large corner offices from like the 90s. That's a thing of the past.
You don't want a corner office anymore?
You have to see where I operate from.
Okay, I have one question.
Thanks, in the car.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't have your name written down. The American Institute of Architects. Do you bring information or data or surveys or something together that talks about what other cities are doing and how they're managing in terms of job sharing or working from home or that other city governments? Do you have that kind of information available through your?
We will tap into
Organization.
our membership, absolutely, to bring those types of information to provide to the public so that we have that as a starting point. You know, what other cities have done, what other cities are doing, how we can implement and improve upon those
Great.
practices, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
I would like, I don't know if this is Zen City's function more than yours, Cheryl, but I would like to see a draft of a survey that can be, you know, how, regardless of how it might be disseminated, I'd like to see, you know, some first questions as to what we feel people can weigh in. And the earlier that I can see a draft survey will be helpful, and I think it will concentrate our minds on what the relevant questions are.
Right. So I second that because you can screw up a survey so quickly, the way you ask the questions, the kinds of questions. And, you know, I've taken so many surveys where by the time I'm the third question, I know that they know what the answer is that they want to get to. So people are very skeptical of surveys, but they are a very good tool if they're done correctly. If you know, you don't lead people in a direction, you give them options in the direction. I remember doing visual preference surveys the same way. You know, you just, well, here's three things, you pick. I don't, you know.
Exactly.
Mhm. Okay, yes, yes.
So in regards to the survey, when we met with Nikki to kind of talk about that, what we originally discussed, and we can, it's whatever you all want it to be, was with each workshop, there would be a set of questions. So
Oh,
the
that's
first,
good.
if the first question's about space, the survey would, you click in, it would talk about the workshop background. And then anyone can answer those questions about space. So there would be an kind of like a mini survey for each area.
I like
And we could do one at the end as a recap, you know, too. But how we were envisioning it when we spoke with Nikki was to, for each topic area, as Cheryl and her team designed the survey or designed the session, the survey questions would allow folks who aren't in the workshop to provide a similar level of input is what we're gonna be asking for in the workshop.
Okay,
If that
a
works.
lot of work, it's a lot of work.
What I'm interested in is like, in my neighborhood, 90% of people don't have a clue how to get anything done. So I think it would be useful to have some sort of a survey that gets out to the widest range of people as possible and asks questions relevant to what they expect of the city hall. What functions, you know, do they ever go to the city hall? Yes, no. When was your last experience? Was it good, bad, indifferent? If so, why? Things like that. Because still, it looks to me like we're targeting
Same thing.
self-interested people.
You know, you bring up a good point. What one of the things that we might use this process for is an educational, provide some education. Like asking people, have you ever been to City Hall? What do you think goes on at City Hall? You know, things like that. So many things. I mean.
So that's sort of like the
blows my mind
beginning
here.
of, it would really be the beginning.
The first
of-
workshop.
In the first one.
Yeah.
right. And the first set of surveys to
Mhm.
get out the widest group of people and say, you know, we're doing this. Do you even know what City Hall? Do you even know where City Hall is? Yeah, okay, a lot of work, a lot of work. Looking forward to our next meeting when we can talk about the content. Any other questions?
Well, even before that, we even know why we need another one.
Don't ask that question.
Here's a bad one. Who's the mayor? Here's a bad one. It's the mayor. Who's your commissioner? No, I get very, just, never mind. Okay.
Okay, thank
Make
you.
sure we're clear on dates before you leave.
Yeah, can
Yeah.
we confirm the dates?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
right. Let's, that December, you all have my dates there. December 2nd would be the first one, because that's the first Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Number 2 is good by me.
Yeah, but I have the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I have the dates here.
That's good.
So we're
Early-
saying
early
December
enough.
2nd for the first one. Because now, you don't want to do one in October. So December 2nd, and then we have, Saturday, January 13th.
January 13th.
And then we have, Saturday, February 17th. And then Saturday, March 16th. And because we're now not gonna do that one in October, we'll have to come up with a
Another
April.
Okay.
But it'll be roughly around whatever the,
March
Oh, you
16th.
said March 16th.
yeah, I guess the March 16th.
Mhm.
What's the third Saturday in April?
20th.
Okay, so then that'll be the 5th one.
And then after
Or
that, we'll
toilet.
do the big city, the big,
Some creative ideas on that one.
what do you call it, virtual city. hall.
That might be a great meeting
Town hall, virtual town hall,
for toilet.
or, tell me, what are you thinking?
Yeah, we can do that. I think, we're gonna do some push for having a virtual town hall even before.
Okay, let me ask you, let me point out something. I mean, this is a month by month schedule.
Yes.
All right,
It is.
but I don't, you tell me if you can do it quicker, can you accelerate?
I don't think so.
All right, because I thought maybe we'd get.
I thought we could start because the first, what, can you tell us again, the first session? What is that first session
The
about?
first session is the introduction and kickoff, but
With the public,
With the
it's kind of
public.
explaining the process and explaining the survey and explaining this is where you go for information, here's the background. So that is more of a kickoff. It's not really engaging. It's just to bring awareness and answer questions.
now that we're not gonna talk about the location, that's correct.
Right, so when we met, we thought that we could do that sometime at late October or very early November, just to bring awareness and let people just know about, hey, this is happening. And then thereafter, have 4 sessions,
Right.
and that can start first in December. So if your question is, can this be 1 month sooner? It sure can for awareness and kickoff. That is gonna be a very high level, not much of gaining, more of saying, this is what we're doing. And this is your role, and this is how you can participate.
Yeah, but you don't need a virtual town hall to do. You don't need to spend $20,000 on a virtual town.
You
hall
don't,
to
for
do
that, you don't. But for that, we can perhaps look at doing it sooner and also broadcasting it to do maximum outreach. And by that time, I mean, if you were to say, if the ITF agrees that it can be done, like, let's say, first week of November, we could host one and just, bring everyone together and let everyone know the schedule and just let everyone know, where they're gonna take place.
I would caution against that, because we need content. We need to see a product, okay? And we're not gonna see a product till the first meeting, the ITF meeting, okay? That's the first time where we're gonna see something besides this. This is beautiful to start, but something.
What would you like to see for, that's what I wanna understand, like, what do we have to prepare for then?
For what you're gonna put on the table on December 2nd. And then walk into a room on December 2nd, someplace downtown, and what's gonna be on the walls, what's gonna be on the tables? What are we gonna talk about?
That'll be the spacing.
So if you're saying that workshop 2, which is the spacing,
No. Workshop 1.
workshop 1 has just what you have in front of you. And also what's gonna be most important is the schedule and the locations of each workshop.
You don't need a workshop to do that.
That's not.
That's got no meat to it.
But that's part of the program that we wanna make sure everyone knows and we answer questions.
Well,
It's like an intro, what everyone knows here, but it's for the public.
I get very nervous when I think about a public meeting without some substance. I would never go into a public meeting without a little more substance than this. I mean, here's the history, here's where we are now, here's all the stuff, here's what we need. No, you don't have to go much deeper than that, but the walls have to be full of something. The tables that you're gonna do, breakout tables, have got to be full of something.
But the first workshop is more of awareness. That's how it's been programmed, because we want to make sure everyone knows the tool, survey, the method.
One of the things that's on the table is how this tool works.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what you're saying, yeah.
Right.
But it is awareness. The first workshop is awareness,
It's awareness.
especially now that we're not doing the location.
Awareness for the history, where we're on now,
Okay.
what we need and how we're gonna do this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all on the same page then.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay,
So I don't understand, Greg, why that needs to be a workshop. To me, that sounds like public service announcement, and the city can get up and say, we're gonna do this, and the infrastructure is gonna do this, and these are the meeting dates, and we're gonna meet here. And this is how we're gonna approach it, there's gonna be surveys. We don't have to get involved in it, let the city do that, and then we can have our meetings
Well, you don't, we can be as involved in that as we think we want to be. I would love to be there.
So
but
if
that's
you'd
an
like,
Individual choice.
if you'd like, we could do a kickoff in late October, early November.
No,
With-
no. Let's not make a problem to solve a problem we don't have. You want to call it a kickoff, you want to call it a workshop, it doesn't matter to me what you call it. All I know is, are you gonna be ready on December 2nd with some substantive discussion? for
Yes,
People.
yes, that's the
Then that's
plan.
what we're looking
Yes,
for.
that's
That's
the
the plan.
spacing.
That's the
And
plan. Yes,
Yes.
on spacing.
What's the problem? Do we have a problem? I'm not,
So
what's the problem?
what I'm hearing the city manager say is he's concerned about the timeline. He would like to accelerate the timeline. Is there some way that we can accommodate that?
Well, I believe, and I offered, once we have the kickoff meeting in December 2nd, okay, then we have all the holidays, nothing's gonna happen in the holidays, okay, nobody's gonna focus. So if we start in January, maybe we have 2 in January, maybe we have, 1 in January, 2 in February, if you want to accelerate, and I know you're dying to accelerate, whatever.
I'm not, I just don't want to lose momentum. I'll tell you that right now, it's been a challenge just to secure a chambers. So what's holding us up from having an official chambers is the city hall, this, right? So this is gonna be very important, but if a month is not gonna, break or accelerate anything, but what I would like to say is, if you'd like, we could do the kickoff in December. And then we start having substantive discussions in January.
Oh, that's what I thought. we would
Okay,
do.
no problem, we'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
before while you're up there, you kept saying so that everybody will know what's happening. I need your definition of everybody.
When we say everyone, I mean the entire city, right? Right now, this is a draft proposal only known here.
Mhm.
But what we want to do is solidify the dates. We're gonna put the dates together. And then when we do the kickoff, everything that we mentioned about dates and schedule and location will be on a website. Everyone will know it. Everyone will know the content about the outline for each workshop.
Mhm.
And we're gonna put as much information before each workshop so that everyone knows where to grab it from. And we'll have already established agendas. And we'll also have at least the first survey ready to go for the first substantive discussion of a workshop, which will be in January.
I just want to point out that you couldn't open up the Sun Sentinel, the electronic edition anyway, without seeing an advertisement for the mayor's state of the city message, okay? Every time I opened up the Sun Sentinel, whoop, mayor say, that's the kind of thing that you need. Let people know, December 2nd, we're having a big party.
And we will do that.
Yeah.
We will do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
We will do that.
I have down here the Sun Sentinel and Mr. Walters, I have the Westside Gazette and because,
Yeah,
You might even, like I mentioned
and
earlier.
all the.
Louisville, put something in there with cities.
Yeah.
Take advantage of like.
Excited about December 2nd.
So what drafts are we going to be able to see at our meeting on November the 6th?
Everything that you can possibly produce by then. That's a
Oh,
lot of work.
after meeting on November 6th, is that what you're asking? Yes.
What
What-
drafts of the information that you're going to put out on December the 2nd, do you think you'll have ready by November the 6th?
We'll have the spacing information.
We'll have the
And
studies.
the data
Right.
that is coming from the city about what was being proposed, and I heard you say 2017 data and the data regarding the joint center, and you said you had some additional.
Yeah, well, how we're operating today.
How we're
Yes,
operating.
Right.
And I'd like to see a draft survey.
And we were gonna have also yes, we would definitely have to have the draft survey, because the surveys are gonna accompany what we're talking about each workshop. And then we will also have best practices, which was asked earlier about, do we know what other cities are doing?
Couple of pretty pictures of
Yeah,
city halls, gets everybody excited. Wonderful, this is gonna be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have other work to do, thank you. Yes.
Generic comment.
I do like that.
So my experience of the city as a current customer is that everything's working very well, which is a credit to the city manager. But I sort of feel that behind the scenes, and I've said this at some other meetings, that the organization is stressed for obvious reasons. I've been through hurricanes as an employee, and I can tell you that a month or 6 weeks afterwards was no fun at all. And in those circumstances, City Hall was not taken out of operation. So I do think it's, incumbent on us to try and work with the city manager to move forward the process that gets towards some sort of permanent answer to where everyone's going to be, etc.
Okay, and I think we all are in agreement that this is like a full speed ahead. It's our job to get it done as soon as possible, but the right way. A month more or a month less
Agreed.
is not gonna, be the makeover rate. And to that point, can you tell me, I don't know if the city manager can tell me, when that communication to the city commission is gonna be on the agenda? Remember, we sent a communication to the city commission about turning back that, the existing P3?
Yeah, no, that was a directive. We are doing that. That was what was under consensus by this when we talked about it. You all talked about it under joint. And that was a consensus directive for us to do.
And you're gonna do it,
Yes.
so I don't have to go to the hearing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Great, thank you. All right, so we're good. I think that was an excellent. Yes.
The request, I believe, was to reject the current one that's on the table and to reject all further.
Oh, that is true.
Until we finally get through this process.
So what I received directive on and what was discussed was to return back the check
Okay,
for the P3. So we're gonna be working with the city attorney on that process and what that means, and if it requires any formal action from the city commission.
okay, but you do bring up a good
But
point.
as far as not accepting any other, that wasn't part of it, and right now, whoever would be submitting one, it wouldn't make sense because we're working out this visioning process.
Well, it did make sense to do a water treatment plant, did it? We got bids on those.
He's got a point. He's got a point there, Greg. I think I will go to the commission when this goes to them.
Sure, that could be the
bring that up.
17th.
The 17th? Okay, October 17th. Okay.
Yeah, if the clerk receives it on time, 17th.
All right. Will do. Okay, wow, that's a lot. So next item on the agenda is, thank you all for coming, appreciate it. Thank you. You're gonna be our new best friend, Cheryl.
Yes, I know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Do we get this card or something?
Oh, sure, yeah. Uh-huh.
The cards as you
Excellent.
Good to see you. I used to teach in the training department. And I started about 2 years ago. I'm interested that you can bring the students. That's what was in my, oh, maybe they'll learn a lot.
Posted really higher.
Okay.
So he's asking for a business card.
Thank
Can you
you.
take a picture of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Photos.
All right.
Oh, we're good. All right, so the next presentation is about the Kinney Tunnel, new business, Kinney Tunnel. Who's gonna be talking about that?
Hi, I am Mark Mosier. I'm the FDOT's project manager for the tunnel. Rehabilitation with me today is Danielle Silva. She is our outreach specialist. And Eric Panaris, who is the day-to-day project administrator for the project.
Okay,
We have a little PowerPoint.
please, please. I can tell you how many people are interested in what's happening.
I'm excited to meet Danielle. I get emails from her every week.
I do. She sends me.
You'll have my email at the end if you'd like to be added as well.
I'm not special.
Okay,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, as Mark mentioned, I am Daniela Silva. I am the community outreach specialist for the project. I'm actually a consultant to Florida Department of Transportation with the Corradino Group. So we'll go ahead and provide just a brief little update on some history on the project itself, completion dates, which I'm sure you're all curious about, and just some overall updates. So this is the design rendering of the plaza aspect of the project. So this is a 2-component project. We actually have limits on US 1 from I-595 to Broward Boulevard and on Los Olas Boulevard in front of the tunnel itself, which is for the construction and extension of the Lower Ward Plaza to the north. That's approximately 117 feet to the north, and also the rehabilitation of the tunnel itself, which we'll go into a little bit more. We officially began construction in September of 2021. We have an overall estimated completion of spring 2024. Our overall cost is approximately $28.4 million, which the city of Fort Lauderdale did allocate funds for that tunnel top extension and construction of the plaza on Los Olas. Our contractor is Lead Engineering Contractors. So you'll see their vehicles all over US 1 and Los Olas. So the purpose of the project itself, the US 1 aspect of the tunnel is to rehabilitate the structural, mechanical, safety components and architectural components of the tunnel itself. Now, the second part is that extension, which, as I mentioned, is 117 feet to the north of Los Olas Boulevard over the tunnel itself. Now, the overall plaza improvements, which include the Lower Ward Plaza and the extension, are new fountains, new seating facilities, redesigned brick pavers, artificial turf, and new landscape installation. Now, we also reconstructed the Los Olas Boulevard interchange and will upgrade Southeast 6th Avenue as well. Now, as you can see in those pictures, the picture on the left is a recent picture, approximately the past 2 weeks. If you've been in the area, you can see that the Los Olas area itself is a little bit different than when it was a couple years ago. Now, the safety improvements. This is something we do want to emphasize. We get asked a lot of questions, what's going on within the tunnel itself, what's happening with construction, some questions as to where are the workers. Now, we do have, the upgrades do include a new ventilation system within the tunnel itself and in the 2 towers, which include the new ventilation system to improve the airflow within the tunnel itself. New LED in the tunnels to improve visibility, the refurbishment of the stormwater pumps. So that is to alleviate the potential flooding concerns within the tunnel itself. The installation of CO2 and hydrocarbon detection sensors for monitoring the air quality itself. Upgrading fire connections, emergency signage, lighting, and again, that's all to enhance the safety of the tunnel. And lastly, installing a motorist information system with message signs and cameras, and that is to provide real-time monitoring and surveillance for the improved incident response. And that's ITS and SCADA, Intelligent Transportation Systems, which Eric will discuss a little bit more about.
Okay, thank you, Dana. My name is Eric Panaris. I'm the project administrator. I work for BCC Engineering. I'm also a consultant to the DOT. Now, ITS, in a nutshell, it just means that we employ the use of various sensors, cameras, dynamic message signing, as well as communication technologies, just to ensure that the motorists that are traveling through the corridor have a safer and more efficient experience. So what is SCADA? The tunnel, the ITS system on the whole wouldn't really be all that intelligent unless we could plug in the tunnel systems and information into the system. So as you can see on the screen, we have fire detection, temperature monitoring, we have door alarms, power distribution, ventilation. So all the systems that we're improving on, they're all measured, but how do they connect to the system? How we do that is we have the SCADA system, which is supervisory control and data acquisition, which takes that information and then it serves as a hub that then relays and connects into the ITS system to provide alarms and so on. If there's any issue going on, the department can remote monitor it and so on. On this next file, you can see this is a representative, like a graphic of what the tunnel looks like, and you have different sensors in green, red and yellow. Those are door sensors, fire valve sensors, and so on, so we can monitor if anyone's tampering with the doors and so on. And this is just another graphic that shows the entirety of the tunnel with the two fans. You can see southbound is on the upper section and northbound is on the lower section. And that's just a sample of some of the data that you received.
Thank you.
So,
Can I ask a question about the tunnel portion? And I get this a lot at meetings. What are all those black wire chases on both sides of the tunnel? Why did you have to do that?
So the conduit that we're installing on each wall, as you can imagine, with all of these systems that we're installing, the fire, hydrocarbon detection, air monitoring, air quality, it requires a lot of data. Data communication and power. So we had to put them in, and you really realistically can't put them underneath either. So we installed them on the wall, but we're gonna have what's called a rain screen, and that's essentially a cover that's gonna be installed over it. So it's gonna block the view of those unsightly black conduits that are installed on the wall.
Oh, you will find people will be so delighted to hear that, Michael.
That's exactly like, that's the biggest comment that I heard was, and I, better reassure folks, I think that was not part of the final plans of what the tunnel is supposed to look like. My biggest concern aesthetically was, or is, given the tunnels. Basically, the way I look at the tunnel is, I mean, it's right, it's one of the main, if not the main thoroughfare of the city. It's a centerpiece of the city, and I'm curious, do we have any renderings of what the tunnel actually will look like on the inside once complete? Because I did look through, I believe, a similar presentation on the city's website, but I didn't see a rendering of what our tunnel is going to look like when it's done.
It's not gonna look all that much different, because with those panels, it's gonna cover the majority of what you see out there right now.
And we're replacing the old ugly yellow tiles with more new ugly yellow tiles, right? Right?
we have to preserve
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 100%.
It's a historic.
Yeah,
Historic, yeah.
that was talked about, but we have to preserve.
Okay.
On the ceiling too, because
Yeah.
now I'm seeing the ceiling looks like it's finished, but it's no tile on it. So you're gonna put the tile back up on the
Yeah, what are
ceiling
they
as
doing with the
well?
ceiling?
He doesn't seem very excited about that. Yes, no?
I can answer that way. The original concept was to remove all the tile from the ceiling. Which, when we started in the first quarter, the tile was almost impossible to get off. The contractor actually tried to use a milling machine, turn it upside down and try to mill it off. So once we started and decided, look, it's better to leave it the way it was, even though it's ugly yellow, but we're gonna leave it the way it is,
Right.
for 3/4 of the tunnel. Not touch any of the existing ceiling tile. And then, that was also reviewed and approved by the State Historical Society, which they thought was good because it was preserving more of the historic structure itself.
So now it's gonna be half
It's
and
a
half?
history, look.
It's on historic register.
It is.
Oh my God.
Don't go there, Michael, it'll just upset you. But eventually it's gonna be, again, what it's gonna look like in the end. Right now, it's, nobody understands what it's gonna look like in the end.
You won't notice much
The
difference.
same as it was before.
Except that there'll be some places on the ceiling will have tile and some won't.
Yes.
You gonna paint it yellow or?
Now it's got a special coating on it. It's a white coating, but there's all brand new LED lights
Yeah, those
Yeah.
things are bright.
that are bright.
Yes, it's like.
But they can be controlled through the SCADA. to be able to keep the light level at the proper luminaires when you're going through the tunnel.
Oh, so people will, a lot of people ask me that. They said, why is it so bright? And what you're telling me is it's the appropriate brightness for how dark or light it is, so the lights will go up and down.
Yes,
So
once
they
it's all
perfect
hooked up,
amount of
right
light.
now, it's not complete, it's just, they're just on
That's interesting.
full bright right now, but once everything gets hooked up, once the SCADA gets hooked up, and then once it starts monitoring the light level, it will keep it at a certain level, depending upon, it's gonna be brighter as you come in, and then, depending on how much traffic and what lights are in the tunnel, it'll adjust itself.
Yes.
Sure,
And whether or not
Ralph.
it's day or night. So if you can imagine, as you move through the tunnel, it's very bright outside with the sun blaring. So when you drive in, it's got to match that brightness, or else you kind of have that dark effect when you're driving through. So this system is going to be able to monitor the outside light and adjust it as you're driving through.
How sophisticated is your pumping system, because you have unconfined water above you and you have unconfined water below you beneath the tunnel? What kind of systems and reliability do you have for, should there be a leak?
I mean, Eric can address it in detail, but in reality, there's no infiltration of water from the bottom or the top. It's the tunnel of water on the outside, and so is the extension. So there's nothing that can really get into it from the outside. All the water that comes down, basically, sheet flows down from the roadway.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I remember it's flooding from the outside or the roadway.
Yeah, and
What kind of pumping system?
There's 6 pumps. They're all older. They're all being replaced with all brand new pumps and all brand new motors. That SCADA system will also monitor the pumps to make sure that, once the levels start coming up, if they do we've had some heavy rains where the tunnel has had a little bit of water buildup in the bottom. It'll monitor that. It'll send a signal to the Transportation Management Center, TMC Center, which handles all it has all the cameras that view all the roads and basically dispatches the
You've got
road rangers.
sensors and other things.
All-
that
yeah,
will
that all be fed back to them, so they'll be able to, override it, or if there's a problem that the pump didn't kick on, they'll be able to know that
And I presume the same thing that holds true for the carbon dioxide and et cetera.
there'll be alerts that'll be and fires to there's gonna be infrared sensors throughout the tunnel for in case there happens to be carbon monoxide
Or
increase
reduction
in
of
temperature
oxygen less
increase.
than 20 or 18%.
Right, it'll throw the signal
Okay.
out, so.
So is there some place where we can see a photograph or a rendering of this water screen? The screen that's gonna go over it?
Thank you.
The rain screen. We don't have a rendering per se of it.
It's yellow.
When we have. Is we could potentially take a picture eventually when we get some up installed. We could provide you with what it would look like for that.
Well, it's a product.
Yeah,
Can we go to the
Example from another job site.
and tell us what it
We could
is?
do that.
Yeah. So some people would
We
like
have
to
a
see.
rain screen on site. We could bring a piece in.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Cool, that would be
We
so
could do
cool.
that.
Okay, Peter.
So the tunnel's pretty congested, particularly in the northbound direction of the tunnel. Are the signs that you're gonna have, like if you're going north on the southern portal, are you gonna be able to display prepared to stop ahead on your signs, that kind of thing?
So we have a lane indication system that is over each lane. It's basically an X or a check mark. And if there's an issue, it'll say don't enter. It'll say like, it'll have the X
No,
mark.
I was thinking more, it often tails back from the intersection in the northbound direction. That the intersection of Broward and Federal
This one.
causes the traffic to tail back, sometimes to the bottom, lowest point of the tunnel. And you come down because you pick up speed going down, and all of a sudden you got to slam on your brakes. So would your sign Is there gonna be a variable message sign on the southern side of that approach that would say prepare to stop ahead or something?
We have two dynamic message signs that are set in the southbound direction, but they don't address that specifically. Due to the fact that the tunnel was built in 1960, there was a whole different set of standards, and we can't change the geometry of the tunnel itself. And in other words, you can't change the angle that you're traveling down. And as you approach the tunnel, you kind of go up a little bit. So that's what makes it a little bit confusing, but that also addresses some of the water that doesn't enter the tunnel because of that. And due to those, the way it was constructed back then, there were some, we have to make exceptions as to just the fact that we can't really change any of that. And but I'll look into it though.
Do you have personal experience with the tunnel northbound?
Yes,
So the traffic jam isn't created by traffic. It's created by the people who are cheating that should be going to Rio Vista. That cut in at the last.
as a matter of fact.
Peter and I will forever be disagreed on zippering in.
Early on, we
But those people should
did
be
experience that, and we implemented a couple of different signs. You've probably noticed them if you've taken Sixth Avenue to Rio Vista. A couple of variable message signs that say, if you're going to US 1, go straight, turn left, and everything. And we've also added that outside lane closure to prevent people as best we could from that, jutting out and then kind of sneaking back in.
Yep.
And it's worked. I believe it's been a solution that it's the best we could do with what we've got out there, and we understand the challenge. We're doing our best.
To James and then Mike.
So, I understood what you're saying about, when the tunnel was originally constructed. Peter is also talking though about, we have a lot more traffic now. And Broward is very busy, in the intersection of US 1 and Broward is very busy. So there's this backup and it goes all the way into the tunnel, and then people are coming down, like you said, they zoom in. So can you have any kind of warning signs when there's stop traffic in the tunnel? That say slow down or flash slow down or enter at your own risk or 5 miles per hour, something that's some kind of a system.
Okay. I'll take a look and see if there's something we can do. I'll check with our engineer record and.
You don't think it doesn't get backed up then?
So
I use something that could be as far as coordinated with Broward County's traffic light systems that
We
they could
coordinate
adjust
with
to
them
keep the
on the
queuing
timing.
or whatever. Okay.
It's part of ITS, right? Yeah.
Until everything, I sweat for you guys, really, because until everything gets open, right now, the lights aren't timed, the lights are timed to get everybody out of downtown.
Yes.
Right, and coming up 8th Avenue or out the other direction. Until that all stabilizes, I don't know how you can. It didn't used to do that. It didn't use the intersection of 1 and Broward. Didn't have that backup on either side.
Okay.
When both sides were open, when the tunnel was open, both sides, that didn't used to happen. Not much, not like now.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe.
It may be the traffic lighting needs proper adjustment, but they needed that for the last decade.
By the end of the project, we're going to be implementing a system that it's an advanced, it's a camera system that's going to make sure that it optimizes all of the traffic lights. It's called adaptive signals, and it's.
Right, we've been waiting for this for
We're
years.
Replacing the
I'll be
control
there
to these
before I
at
do
all
that.
the intersections from 30th all the way up through Broward. So the controllers as well as the cameras, and it'll flow a lot better than it is now. It's gonna have all the updated equipment.
I was on Federal Highway the other day, and I noticed that the traffic lights are favoring Federal Highway to such an extent, you can't get out of the neighborhoods. I was sitting on a side road trying to get into Federal Highway. There were the arrows weren't even working. I mean, the arrows weren't working. We were standing there trying to make a left-hand turn where there's usually an arrow to give you at least 2 seconds to make a.
3 turns of the light, there was no left-hand arrow. People were going crazy. They were in the intersection with their cars. With the lights against them because three cycles and nobody could make a left-hand turn. What's up with that?
We aren't affecting any of the traffic signals, or we haven't affected any of the controllers as of yet. So we haven't messed with any of the timings. We haven't adjusted any of the timings. Other than the one on Las Olas and 6.
Oh, it's not your fault.
If you
So we-
have the locations, you can send it my way and I can contact our partners in Broward County to take a look at it.
Yep. Yep, we can,
We can support you with.
Cordova and 10th Avenue on 17th Street. Cordova Road and Southeast 10th Avenue. They both had left-hand turn
Okay.
arrows. They weren't working.
Yeah.
15th and
Let me just say, it's legal to enter an intersection where you have the green bulb,
Right.
even if you cannot make the left turn immediately, because there's oncoming traffic. So you can go into the intersection and wait for the light to go red to the opposing traffic, and then make your left turn.
Yes,
That's
correct.
legal.
But if you got 6 people who've been sitting there
To a couple-
waiting,
you can at least two.
one car at a time.
Usually a couple of cars can do it. if you
I
know
know.
what to do.
All right, we could all bitch about traffic forever. Michael.
2 final questions. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming here and presenting to us, because I appreciate it. It's definitely, especially consider this project coming to a conclusion, allegedly spring. I think it's good that at least we had the opportunity to review this before it's done and understand why things were done the way they were. My first question is, Danielle, does the city of Fort Lauderdale have the ability to have any input, or did the city have Fort Lauderdale have the ability to have any input on this project before it was started with FDOT? Or is it just kind of FDOT says what happens and you get what you get, and too bad if you don't like it, or,
So the city allocated funds for the Toronto Top extension for
Yeah.
the Warwick Plaza. They were we continue to be partners with them throughout construction. The rehabilitation portion itself, there was coordination aspects, but that's something that DOT along with their designers addressed to make sure that this came into fruition. Since we were impacting traffic, that's when the city said, let's also kill 2 birds with one stone and get this done during the same time, since we are minimizing the impacts to the public all around.
but I guess more specifically, does the city have the ability to give input on the rehabilitation part of, not necessarily obviously the tunnel top, I understand the city allocated money for, but the actual tunnel itself? I know that FDOT is doing all that and paid for the project and all that, but does FDOT give the city the ability to have any kind of input on anything that happens in that tunnel? Like if they wanted to put in, I don't know, if they wanted to just strip all the tile and leave it concrete or whatever, would the city have an opportunity to stand up and say, hang on a second, I don't know if, this works for us? Do we know?
We work with the city
Okay.
throughout the whole process.
Just one question real quick about the tunnel top now, the park. In the renderings I looked at online, it looked like their renderings were of people sitting on the ground, like on those 2 steps. Are there plans for actual seating, like benches or like umbrellas or more shade? To me, it just didn't seem that pedestrian friendly in the rendering, at least.
Is it gonna?
So I have some photos. This is actually what's out there right now. So the
Yeah.
left, we have the lower work plaza itself, this is the new ventilation tower.
Mhm.
This is the tunnel top extension. Over here, you have the facilities as well. Another tree. As far as shading,
15-foot high. We couldn't go any larger, obviously, because of the limited depth that we have up there, as well as the space. So the landscape architect did design these as seats, and it has like an artistic aspect to it as well, with these panels underneath it, kind of looking like dripping wet in a way when it's lit up at night. But yeah, those are designed to be seats, and as far as shade,
They were initially hard shade structures.
I was on the Riverwalk board, remember? Riverwalk proposed this initially, they really led it. And like you say, they did it because the timing of it was gratuitous with the rehabilitation project. It was already funded in a way. So, but the initial drawings for the tunnel top did have shade structures. It had, I think they were yellow, there were these large shade structures and it had like proper turf.
I did.
Yeah, it was yellow because of the tunnel.
No, much that you
I did want to add another point to display that the city, we work with, or DOT works with the city as well. If you see this structure here, this is a brand new structure that we've erected here. If you recall, what was there before was it was the old footprint of the 1960 building and it protruded above the ground, probably 3 feet or so. And the city said, hey, is there any way we can make this more appealing to people coming in and visiting the plaza? So we dropped the roof, we basically chopped the roof, installed a new or poured a new concrete ceiling and roof, and then dropped this structure to ground level.
What's
that
in
works
that
a hell
little
of a
building?
lot better.
Yeah, no,
It's a ventilation fan.
That's the ventilation.
That's just the fan.
For the tunnel.
That's the airflow for the tunnel.
Big fan.
A really big.
Fans are good.
Yeah, that's big.
We have some,
That's good, Peter.
the Stranahan family, history on the panels
That's nice.
as well,
That's
to give you
nice.
kind of that decorate.
I'll bet you dollars to donuts, eventually we're gonna get some shade structures back in there, because nobody's gonna stand there,
Well,
they're gonna
green,
die.
yeah, some green, some kind of green, some kind of green space, well,
And that turf's gonna get hot.
yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
good turf.
Yeah.
Land was paid
That's
for.
tough.
I've seen better
Funded by
turf.
the city. They reviewed and approved what is theirs.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any questions, we do have some quick traffic configurations to keep you all in the loop. So US one within itself, we currently have the outside lanes open in each chamber and the median lanes closed. That's gonna be in place until approximately later this week. That is barring weather. Fortunately, we've had some very rainy days, so this may get extended to next week where we will perform a traffic shift. Again, lanes will be reduced within US one until early next year. And the next traffic configuration will actually be the southbound tunnel chamber will be open, so you'll have bi-directional traffic. And the northbound tunnel chamber will be closed so that they can commence all of those safety improvements and just the rehabilitation of the structure on that side. So that will continue until approximately early next year. I do send out weekly updates with traffic information, anything prevalent to the community and in regards to traffic updates. If we do have quarterly update meetings for the community as well, we send out invitations to those. If you'd like, I can send you my invitation. We will have one in approximately 2 weeks. It's a Teams meeting. It's a lunch meeting, approximately 1 p.m. It's a quick update, answer any questions, get community feedback, get back to the team, and then we try to address all those community concerns and just ensure that everyone is aware as to what's going on and when we anticipate to be out of here.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Okay, if you could get us a photograph of the product that's gonna be on the wall, I guarantee you, you will make a lot of people's day.
Or not.
Oh, no.
No, it'll look good.
Don't worry. Okay, thank you very much.
That's my information. If you ever have questions, you can email me or call me.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Thanks.
And item number 4, water and sewer breaks. Oh, my God. How about downtown? Thank you. Thank you.
Where there was a.
How about the water garden?
Yeah, let's talk about.
Let's talk about the water
That
garden.
was a heck of an article.
So, I mean, obviously, these people, I was about to say these poor people at the water garden, but they are not poor
They're
people
not.
at the water garden.
These rich people.
All right, these rich people, these people, these residents of the water garden were incredibly inconvenienced. As many people in many neighborhoods are incredibly inconvenienced by the breaking. Do you know what happened, why they lost water?
Well, I mean, I don't know what caused the break, but after the break was fixed, you have to do your water sampling for 2 days to make sure that it's clean. And we did not pass. And every The day thereafter, for over 2 weeks, we were having issues to the point where last week we were approved, early to mid last week, we were approved to do actually chlorine injection and a higher level of disinfection and flush that. And that at first did not work. Then we closed down some valves of some contributing lines that we were questioning whether or not they might be some of the issues, because there's some dead end lines in the area. And after closing a couple of valves on a couple of those suspect lines, doing another chlorine injection and soak, and then flush, we actually passed. So, man, I can't remember if it was Thursday or if it was Friday when we finally got notice of the second test passing, which allowed everybody to get off of the boil water notice. So in the meantime, in addition to all that effort just to get that water passing at that time, we've also had an emergency declaration passed to where we're going to actually pipe burst. And in some cases drill where we can't burst, but basically we're going to do as much trenchless as possible to run a new, brand new line all the way around, I don't remember the name of the street, but right off of Los Olas, around the bend, all the way down to underneath the bridge. We're going to replace that 6/8/10 inch pipe with a brand new 10-inch pipe all the way from end to end. Reinstate all the services of all those buildings that are running off of those mains, because there's like 3 or 4 different mains scattered through there, as well as running up Third with the new interconnect between Los Olas and that pipe down there. And then I believe what's considered 4th Street or whatever, in between Los Olas and the river, a new interconnect that connects the loop with Third. So we're going to replace all the guts of the water mains between Los Olas and the river in that entire area. That's an emergency project that they did a soft mobilization starting today.
Okay, let me ask you a question, and then Ralph has a question. How much is that gonna cost, and where did we get the money for that?
So-
What got put off in order to do that?
So there's 2 or 3 different answers to the funding. So I'll answer the easier part, which is it's roughly estimated about 1.5. So we're estimating 2 to be safe, hopefully. So we're hoping to keep it under 2 million. With that being said, where's the money come from? Well, obviously we have reserves for a reason for emergencies up to a certain point, of course. And it is a new fiscal year, so we have new reserves. But with that being said, also we have other projects that are closed out or needing to be closed out. You know, you can grab 100,000, a couple 100,000 here and there from a lot of old closed projects. So when we do project closed up for the financial portion, we gather a lot of money, relatively speaking, as we do that, which helped us replenish reserves when we spend them, as well as other projects that, as you mentioned, might have to be put on pause. Right now, we're not planning on putting any projects unfunded on pause. So as it sits right now, it's going to be reserves from the water sewer fund.
Yeah, I've got a question regarding the pipe that failed itself. Was that one of your older cast iron pipe that's been in there since the 70s or 80s? And there's a follow-up question, concern that because of the amount of the folks that are on there, the company that are on there, and it took a couple of weeks in order to get the back test to pass, so it could be boiling requirement is shut down with that. If your Atlas maps and everything else, I mean, if something else, the older part of the other part of the pipe fails, I mean, you could, the likelihood of going through the same thing is a very high possibility.
Yep.
And so what kind of reactions that you can do to I don't know, it's difficult to monitor anything in there, but if that one's 50 years old or 40 years old, and you've got other 50 and 40-year-old pipes in there, there's got to be some kind of strategy that can be invoked to stop the length of time that it's shut down.
So in this particular case, again, focusing on this zone, we'll just call it 4-block zone. We do the 3-block north-south and 2 east-west. That we're gutting it. We're putting all brand new HDPE in the entire system. So all those older pipes, we'll remove what we can, but we're trying to do trenchless as much as possible. So we're going to grout fill all of those old pipes. So everything's going to be on new service lines. All 10-inch, I believe we're going to do 10-inch everything, except for maybe on 4th, that might be 8, but it'll be upsized from what it is now, which is good news because when you have a fire flow test on the one fire hydrant, you can't pass a fire flow test on a second hydrant at the same time. With the new 10-inch pipe, you will now alleviate that problem, which helps with the new buildings that are going in the area too.
And that was my follow-up. concern about the fire hydrant capabilities, because initially 40 years ago, when that pipe was put in, the zoning was a lot less. I would say a single family, but it was a lot less than now. You got multi-stories and you got high density, extremely high density. And as far as meeting the, like a residential would be like 500 gallons per minute fire requirement to get out of a fire hydrant. Now it would probably be 1,500 to 2,000 or more gallons per minute.
Yeah, we're, I don't remember the exact numbers, I do have them somewhere, but we're going to be doubling the fire flow. And again, you'll be able to have fire flow at 2 hydrants at the same time, which you cannot right now. So everything's going to actually be much better just by default from this emergency happening.
That'd be a good thing to hit with Sun Sentinel there, to give you a little pot, show there's some positive plans here to prevent this. Because some of those comments were pretty
Yeah, well, Sun Sentinel loves public works.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the good news for everything all around is everything's passed now, everything's safe now. We're still doing the emergency project because of the potential future breaks.
great.
And again, because of the load that's coming onto the system there, the known hydrant flow concerns, while they pass at one, as well as pre-testing some of the connect points where we're going to be connecting these brand new pipes too. The whole downtown area has had people noting concerns, desiring to have tests done on a regular basis, which we can't, between manpower and money, we can't be just testing all over the place. But there's been a lot of concerns in that area. So in order to rectify or at least calm some of those concerns, we're also pre-testing all the connect points around where these new pipes are going for 2 reasons. But my favorite one is so we don't look stupid when we install a brand new pipe, and it will pass as soon as it's installed.
Get your public relations person out there and tell them that to dissolve some of these, hard comments being made about the city.
James.
So actually, thank you. That was a nice segue. So Chris, what kind of efforts did take place? I mean, the water guard got a lot of big write-up in the Sentinel. So what kind of PR or communications were directed specifically at that building, the property management, the residents there? So they understood the process associated with this. And like you just explained, you had to do this chlorine injection and testing twice, which took like 3 weeks right there, or 4 weeks. So, I mean, they have to understand that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So did that kind of communication go on? Do you have?
I wasn't directly involved in an emergency to be able to say everything to that, but as far as communicating to the buildings that were affected, they were getting communicated to through our communications team, as well as on site, our emergency ops guys and gals that were out there all
Alan
day
was out
today.
there. Alan Dodd was out there with them.
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman was out there. They
Yes.
gave him pallets of water. I
So-
mean, these people were treated better than a lot of people got treated.
Yeah, that's something that, puts an extra burden on us, but it's the right thing to do at the time. And ultimately, so the message was given to them, whether or not we used every single avenue possible, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Nextdoor, FTL alert and all that kind of stuff. I can't speak to that, but I do know our communications department was communicating to the buildings affected to at least let them know what's going on. Now, how educational was it? I don't think they're going as far as telling them that this is the process. It's kind of like take it or leave it type situation. When you have a break, you're talking several days, upwards of a week plus, just to reinstate a small break because of the construction installing and as well as the testing, which again, that alone is 2 days after the pipes are installed, which can take a couple of days. So most people think that the water can be fixed immediately, and sometimes it seems like that, but these bacteriological testing has to happen. And
Right.
unfortunately, the supply of water in the area is questionable, to say the least, but it really, in my opinion, from modeling perspective, we were looking into one of the dead end pipes, which we're getting rid of as far as this, as part of this project. We believe that was the culprit of mixing old stagnant water with the new pipe. But again, all that's going to be ripped out.
Gotta loop it in round so that it flows instead of.
Yeah, everything is actually looped.
looped.
Everything except for this one pipe I'm referring to is looped in the area, so it'll be better looped. And no dead ends left
Okay,
behind.
first Martha and then Peter.
So, Chris, you never answered, is that the pipe bursting, it's an asbestos pipe?
No, so it's either cast iron or ductile that's out there now, so it's not the old ACP or anything like that.
Okay, so either cast iron, I don't think you can burst through the ductile iron.
So ductile iron is more difficult to burst. Can you? Yes, you have a lot of concerns about sometimes you can't get it to break in small enough pieces, which will cause heaving of the ground around it. And when you're doing larger diameter, that can be a concern of the heaving that's caused by such a large void being pushed out, which number one is why we're not going more than one diameter up in size to minimize that. But you're right, there is a concern with pipe bursting, DIP mainly because of its ductility. It doesn't shatter and fracture into what would be kind of the equivalent of rocks, right? With the surrounding soils. That's why pipe bursting works so well on cast iron or other more fragile or brittle metals. So we are a little bit concerned about that, but we also have the ability to, there's different ways that you can burst it. There's more dynamic bursting methods where the tip actually hammers as it goes, which helps fracture it more. As well as if we get it to a point where it's actually starting to shove the pipe, we can pull back out and just drill directly underneath it or directly around it. Use its general path and just continue drilling around it rather than trying to burst through it.
Okay, and another follow-up, I'm sorry. Who's your selected vendor for the bursting? You mentioned you already have emergency declaration. Do you know the contractor?
So we're using Murphy Pipeline Contracting. They've worked with us on a couple of other emergencies, along with a couple of other contractors, but they happen to be the ones that were ready to go immediately. And also when it comes to bursting, since we're going to try to do that as the majority of this work, they tend to be one of the ones that do the majority of bursting around here, especially the pre-chlorinated that the county and DEP has already passed. So your permitting can be basically after the fact almost.
Also some points. I'm thinking you may have it, I don't want to throw this out to the table, but you may have another potential break somewhere in that pipe that we don't know yet, and that's the usual reason why it takes so long to pass the Bactis. Like we repair one section, and I'm thinking you may have developing another break. So definitely great that you're taking the approach that it's emergency. We're gonna have to replace that because that may show up again like 2 weeks from now, and that's usually the case when you cannot pass your Bactis. And I'm assuming you already done everything, changing the operator who's collecting a Bactis and all the PPE for them, because sometimes it's just the person, right? Like sometimes it's the luck. So definitely kudos to that you're moving forward. Are you thinking about looping right now? And so that's gonna give redundancy right now, right? If we close all the pipes, excuse me, then that's not gonna affect so many people at the same time, right? Because you should be able to isolate that break. So
and again,
the fact that there was not enough valve, so just when they're replacing that, put enough valves in it so we can isolate it. If that's happened, I hope never gonna happen again.
which again, the
Next
main
50
problem
years.
before in that area is it is looped, but there were old remnants of dead ends connected to it. And the majority of the dead end that we found to be out there is actually servicing the hose bibs on the seawall for docking toilets. So, but again, like you alluded to, we are getting rid of all that, so.
Just to add to your question on that real quick, I don't want to cut in.
Oh, all right, sorry.
But
We had a new question.
it's a lot of tuberculation inside those old pipes, rust. And even though you can go through there and heavy fluorine and try to bacterialize it, it doesn't do like a newer pipe. It's got remnants of bad stuff in there, and put it in simple language, and so they can't do a quick.
Cast iron is one of the most.
Okay, Peter.
So I thought that the major reason why it took such a long while to get a positive, good test was exactly because of what you've been talking about, the dead end in length that existed there. So, and all these things, one needs to try and draw lessons. The first lesson would seem to be you'd have to be very careful going forward about allowing buildings like that to be in a system where there's a dead end close by, or and then secondly, we know from the work we did in the past that the expectation legally is when the city approves a development, that all the requisite infrastructure is going to be in place in time for the building to come online. So now what we've had to do here retrospectively is to get rid of the dead end and also renew quite a lot of pipe. So going forward, when you get these, and you know, the downtown is constantly being developed and redeveloped. So again, the lesson seems to be is that you should really have first call on the impact fees to renew pipes in the downtown before we have another situation, and this time caused by just a break because the pipes are older. So I don't know if you draw the same conclusions as me, but you know.
Yeah, generally, yes. As you know, a couple of years ago, the lovely state helped everybody but us by making it so whether you pay an impact fees or whether we request during the development review, which is the engineers that work under me, for you to upsize all the infrastructure that's impacted by your development. One way or the other, money's coming in to the city, whether it's a pipe or money for a new pipe. So we do more now than we ever did before. The team that we have put together now is, I wouldn't say a better team per se, even though they are. But they're better educated as to being stronger with the developments in terms of requiring, as you're familiar, you know, upgrades. And not just for your one building, but we brought this up before, looking at the multiple developments that are potentially coming, and looking at, you have a demand of a certain amount of water and sewer, you have a demand for a certain amount. Well, if you both come online, I'm not going to ask you for a 6 and then later on ask you for an 8. I'm going to ask you both for an 8, and first come, first serve. Thank you for putting it in the ground. So we're trying to get better at coordinating ahead of time for these developments. But in this area, again, focusing on this particular breaking situation, the pipes in the area are sized okay for the developments that are coming online. They upsize some minimal amount of pipe in order to make sure that one particular building that's being built by Cast is going to have supply. But it didn't resolve a known issue in fire flow. And again, we pass from a law perspective, but you never want to have one hydrant half dead when you're using another hydrant. So we're upgrading it as part of an emergency. The pipes in the ground that were upgraded between Cast and some of the other developments that have been built in the last 10 years or so have made that area okay flow wise, but this is basically resolving 3 different problems.
Can we take this up a notch a little higher? You,
Yeah.
what's the status of the consultant contract who's supposed to be mapping all of the water pipes?
System.
Yeah,
Yeah.
comparable to the effort that was done by Hazen and Sawyer for the sewers. What's the status of that?
So the water mapping project, I believe they're either done or they're going to be done this month with the field data collection. And honestly, it's going to be many months of the data collection, actually crunching the data into the GIS maps, updating the GIS maps, confirming what's been collected in the field versus what we suspected we had or didn't have with the old atlases, comparing the 2 different databases, updating the database, going back out to the field to collect data in areas where we find dead zones of we're questioning the data or we seem to be missing new information. So we're almost done with the field data. Next up is the office, which they've already started, you know, gridding the city, working in the office for the last several months. If I remember correctly,
Which office? What office? There's no office.
Well, so that's why we hire consultants, they have offices. So Craven is the prime, but they're running with about 8 other subs to do all this work.
Okay, well, this is very important because, you know, we've always been, I have always been concerned about the water portion of our mission. We've worked very hard on the sewer portion,
Yep.
the storm systems. Water has always been lagging behind because we were waiting for this information. And you said something that got me very concerned about the flow in the hydrants. I mean, are we aware of inadequacies of flow in the hydrants because of some of these old pipes?
We are aware from a modeling perspective,
Modeling.
where there are concerns, but again, we don't have any issues where well, I can't say 100% without reviewing the model myself, but we're not aware currently of any hydrants that are currently right now not passing the minimum requirements for the area that they serve. So there's higher flow requirements in a high density area like this one that we're talking about now, lower flow requirements and then dead end of a 10-home street, right?
Right.
But so right now as it stands, we're not aware of any hydrants that don't pass currently the minimum requirements. Do we have concerns? Yes, we have several concerns. All the aisles with their dead end water lines, we're very concerned about the flow rates of those. But again, are they passing today? Technically, yes.
Has the insurance services, people gone out and done tests throughout the city to determine the capability of the fire hydrant output to meeting the fire flows for that particular?
Yeah, I can't speak to that level, but as far as, getting a CO on a building, obviously there's flow tests that have to be done.
Right.
And that's fire department.
Yeah.
But does the water garden have some sort of a riser in it for fighting fires?
That building, I got a lot of stuff I can't speak to 100%, but most of those buildings end up having some sort of pump system to boost.
That's the developers tell us, don't worry, we got pumps, we'll pump it all up.
Yeah, which have to be connected hopefully to their backup generation system too.
Correct, and there has to be enough flow at the hydrant.
In order to
suck the
support
water up.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'm worried about water, I'm really worried about water, but something came up that I thought was fascinating. That you got an emergency order to do a chlorination, an extra super duper chlorination at
So,
some point.
yeah, basically the county, between Department of Health and DEP allowed us to do, it's an extra level of chlorination. So usually you're just flushing.
Right.
Turn up the pressure, blow out the water, flush it with as much pressure as you can. And that usually knocks free whatever is in there residual in the pipes. But if that doesn't work, then there's another method where you identify a specific section and you actually inject extremely high levels of chlorine, which are not safe for drinking, into one end of the pipe, and you do unidirectional flushing, so you know where you started and where you're coming out, so you make sure you get it out.
Yeah.
So you inject that portion where you have it valve closed on two ends, get that chlorine in there, you let it sit for a certain amount of time, whether it be minutes or hours, I cannot recall for this section. So that chlorine actually soaks into whatever's inside those pipes. And then you flush it at high pressure out the other end. Like I said,
Can you do that on a regular maintenance basis on the ends?
no,
That's
well,
similar to the free chlorine that the city does, like a free
Yeah, we do
chlorine
a free,
burn.
we do a
That's-
free chlorine for the entire system.
so yeah,
So that's a similar.
But I'm talking about the problematic ends.
all the
Dead
dead end
end.
streets, yeah.
If you periodically do that at the dead ends.
No, usually what you have either flashing at the dead ends or you have the.
Yeah, so being allowed to do
Flasher.
something like this, you have to have some sort of emergency event. Whether it's a declared emergency or not, you have to have some sort of an event that triggers the health department and DEP
And they'll let
allowing
you
you to
do
do this. Because while we just mentioned the free chlorine burn that we do from the plant, which every city or most plants do on a regular yearly basis. This is you're talking 10, 20 plus times
Okay,
the concentration of
Dangerous
chlorine,
stuff.
so you really don't want to be doing it regularly. It's caustic to the pipe materials unless of course it's all DIP, which it's not. All you can do for those dead end streets is have a regular hydrant flushing plan for the hydrants that are at the ends.
Yeah, I realize that that's, the same, but to me, and I recall, because I did perform a lot of the fire flushing for Broward County. And of course, the fire departments are supposed to go out and do the fire flow testing of the fire hydrants, so they can make sure they're painted the right color. But more importantly, that they're able to meet the fire requirements of that particular zone.
Yep.
Have you coordinated with the fire department on that? Because I know the county, Broward County was such that it was like two different entities and they needed to have a meeting of their minds and collectively go through this process to ensure that there's fire protection out there.
When it comes to testing the fire flow for buildings getting CO, or when the fire department has gone to certain areas and they themselves feel that there's a pressure issue, yes, we're coordinated with them in terms of they know who they got to go to. We're the ones that not only create the water, but provide the water. So we're very well coordinated with our fire department. Again, can I speak every single hydrant in the entire city? No, but they're very well coordinated with us when they know of any issues or concerns. And then what we do is we check it with the models first, see if they jive for what's being told in the field, and also to be able to backtrack where maybe the pressure issue is started, and then that's how we can move forward and figure out if there's something we need to do.
You did a lot, you're doing a lot more than Brevard County did. I mean, I had a lot more hair before I got through with them. But,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when the stenographer starts to leave, we know we are overrunning our time. Okay, the only other item on the agenda is general discussion and comments. Anything anybody wants to bring up that we should be looking at and telling the staff that we need to work on? No? Okay, I'm adjourning this meeting. The next meeting is a very important one. We gotta see all this material and weigh in on the value of all the material that we're gonna be pumping out to the public in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
All right.